Hello everybody and welcome back to yet another World of Tanks Blitz showcase. Now the last time I did this, I did the KV-1, so I figured today we will do the KV-1's bigger brother, the KV-2. Now, the big deal with the KV-2, it's got that big old 152mm gun, which firing HE can absolutely wreck tanks. But it is a bit of a derpy gun, doesn't have the best accuracy, and overall, in my opinion, at least in the Blitz version so far, the KV-2 is a very poor platform in terms of mobility and armor. So, yeah, it's got a big gun, but man, it gives up quite a bit. The PC version I don't feel is as bad. It's really hard to say, but it just doesn't feel as slow and as clunky as the Blitz version of the KV-2. Now, speaking of the KV-2 and its stats, I'll go ahead and throw another image up here, and it's just another comparison like I did last time with the KV-1. Same rules apply. If it's green, the Blitz tank is better than the PC version. If it's orange, they're about the same, and if it's red, then the Blitz version is worse than the PC version. So this is a very stark contrast from the KV-1. First of all, there's a lot more green than there was in the KV-1, and a lot more orange. As a matter of fact, there's very little red compared to any of the other colors on this versus the KV-1. And the negatives on this are not really that massive in my opinion. If you take a look, the terrain resistance is slightly worse on the KV-2. The health is slightly worse by a whole 10 hit points on the KV-2 and Blitz. And I think probably this is probably like the biggest issue would be the penetration being 10mm less than the PC version in Blitz. So outside of that, other things are pretty much the same. The aim time is the same, rate of fire and reload identical, shell velocity and the caliber obviously are the same, and even interestingly enough, the armor is the same on both the hull and the turret, which is different from the KV-1 where its armor was almost like cut into 2/3 of what it is at 50-70mm on the side and rear. Here it's 75 and 70 respectively, so it keeps the exact same armor profile, at least in terms of thickness, versus Blitz and the PC. Now, a couple other things that are better than, its alpha is 50 HP better. That's not bad. Keeping in line with that, its DPM is better, which is kind of surprising because usually you'd figure a smaller matched game with less tanks and things like that, you don't want to have guns firing. Granted, this tank doesn't really fire all that fast. I mean, 23-second reload, but still, I'm surprised that there's more alpha and DPM on this tank versus the PC version. It's also got slightly, and I mean ever so slightly, better dispersion in whole, but I mean still 0.57 versus 0.58. Not a big difference. And for some reason it has better camo, but I mean, it's a giant house, so whatever. I don't really consider camo a big deal on a heavy tank. But still, I'm very surprised that this tank is much more in line with its PC version compared to the KV-1. Now, as usual, I did play a few rounds in the KV-2 as I'm grinding up through the IS-4 line, and I'll go ahead and show some of them off. But the gameplay style is very similar. It's just, you're going to notice how sluggish, like the KV series, still very sluggish, and that comes from the KV-1 into the KV-2, and I'm sure it'll go into the 3, and I definitely know it's going to go into the 4. But anyways, let's go ahead and we'll get into some matches here. Alright, so one of the first matches I have is actually fairly stock. I'm still using the stock turret. I do have the 152 on board. It's the nice thing about the KV-2, you can use either turret. The first turret, less HP obviously, but I mean outside of that, it's whatever. It's, you know, not a big difference in my opinion. This one actually kind of looks cooler a little bit because I like the slants up in the front and stuff like that. It does give you less gun depression, and it does give you, I believe, a slower turning rate or something like that. I don't know. 100%, but it's inferior slightly to the KV-2's better turret. So, as you can see, the wait to totally lock in is glacial. But when you penetrate, oh boy. So I get spotted here. I don't know how that actually worked, by the way, either. I was like, usually these 152mm shells are guided by the hand of Stalin or something like that. It's gotta be. That Nashorn, I was hoping to get a shot off on him. I was hoping he wasn't focusing on me, but he did. But I do see a T1 heavy, and I'm gonna lock in here. Not bad, 369. I, crit his track, not a big deal to me, but I get him inside and I knock some health off of him, which is important to me. That's what I'm out here to do, is to delete tanks from the battlefield. The T1 heavy unfortunately takes the Stug out. Now its bigger brother, the M6, is here. Now I hope that I can still get a shot off on the T1. I can't, which means I now have a shell for the M6 ready to go. And I'm backing up. There's all sorts of stuff I can't get to over there. The ARL-44 is helping me out a little bit by taking some of those guys out. I'm worried slightly here that I'm not going to be able to traverse my gun around in time for that KV, or for that M6, which just hits the ARL, to show up. He's at full HP, so I'm a little nervous. The ARL runs into me, I'm sure by accident. Now, the M6 is definitely scared because he knows I haven't fired a shot off yet. So I go ahead and I lay into him on the front. It doesn't do a whole lot of damage. By now, the ARL's moved back out, and he's going to lay a shot into him. Or at least I hope. He misses. And unfortunately, my ARL has been destroyed. So now it's just me versus the M6. Now he thinks about it for a second, and then he backs up. So the fear of the KV-2 is real. And now he's hoping I can bait a shot, but I managed to damage his ammo rack. So now I know he's not going to be able to reload on me, so I back on down and I get into a safe spot. This Leopard's going to come up behind him. Doesn't do a whole lot, but at least he's annoying the M6. Now the M6 is going to try and take this Leopard out. I'm going to try and move into a better position to take him out. Unfortunately, the speed of the KV-2 is going to be the detrimental factor here, and the Panzer V-4 is going to come along and knock him out. So, yeah, I mean, I did okay. I did about 1,300 damage, but the gameplay is so slow on the KV-2. It's a lot of waiting and sitting around, and then finally you actually, get to do something, and you're like, oh. So, for me, it's not my favorite, but it's still very gratifying when you connect a shot. Anyways, we'll go ahead and move on to the next match. So, another match where I'm still mostly stock and running the original turret with the 152. So now I'm spawning on the other side of Copperfield. Now, like I said, usually I expect tanks to come up this way, and I also expect tanks to be waiting there, so I figure I'm going to get a guaranteed engagement. But I don't run up there right away because there's no point in doing so if my gun isn't loaded. So I sit here and I wait. I also get some support. My KV-1S decides to show up. The enemy KV-1S is up there. Also, the KV-2 is up there. Now it's wearing a special camo that calls itself menacing, which kind of turns the tank brown. Not my thing. But here I'm having issues with that gun depression. It's just not working out for me. And the Leopard fires off some shots, but he takes a lot more HP than he gave out. So I'm trying to get my tank up into an area where I can land a shot. And I'm trying. I bounce a shot off of, I'm assuming, the KV-2, which means he's probably using the 107, which is an option, it's an option. It's a definitely different style of gameplay. He manages to track me. Once again, I'm still just kind of stuck here. I haven't managed to really do anything. But I can go ahead and bounce another shot off of him. If you take a look, I'm actually bouncing it off the side of the turret there near the turret ring, so hooray for rounded armor. But I'm still moving along. He finally gets a shot into me, and he actually jams my turret, so I fix it. Now, I know he's going to reload again soon. but he wasn't ready for that 152 millimeter shell apparently. So now I sit here. I'm trying to stay out of the way because I know there's no point in moving up into the line of fire if I have no ammo ready to go. So I'm gonna sit back and hopefully everyone will stay in the same condition that they were. That KV-1S runs away. The M7 and the other KV-1S decide to go after him. Now I see there's a Stritzvon and an M4 Sherman over here. And I think these are both very soft, squishy tanks, especially if I catch them on the rear. So I'm rolling up. I don't know how this guy doesn't see me until now, but right through the side. And that's the satisfaction of having a 152 millimeter gun. It just one shot that Stritzvon, took all 650 hit points away from him. Now the Sherman's getting some damage right now, and I'm thinking he thinks he's safe because everyone's not able to shoot him. Well, except me. And that's exactly what I do. I go ahead and take him out and end the match. Again, not a terrible amount of damage. I did about 1100, which, by the way, I do not consider myself by any means a good or spectacular player. This is just my matches and how I play and what I think of the tanks. So bear that in mind. I'm not sitting here telling you how to play. I'm just giving you honest thoughts about what I think about the Blitz tanks versus the PC tanks. But anyways, we'll go ahead and we'll move on to the very last match that I have today. So as I said, there is a different style to the KV-2. You can use the 107, which I did equip on this match. Now, first thing you'll notice, it's only got a 9-second reload, which isn't that bad. I also have the upgraded turret on this version, which does provide a little bit better angling up in the front. Anyways, so we're getting ready to go here.
Let's get this show on the road.
Everyone's ready to go. Apparently our Cromwell accidentally told the enemy team which way we were going. Whoops. What can you do? At least I know that the way I'm going, the tanks are gonna be there, so... Anyways, the tank is a little bit quicker, but not by a whole lot, in my opinion. It's still a rather slow tank. Sadly, this Churchill is somehow beating me. That's interesting. But, that aside, I do like the idea of having a 9-second reload. It's going to be better DPM, but the issue here for me is this tank still doesn't have the best mobility, and it doesn't have the best armor, so you're still not going to want to leave yourself out in the open while you're making these shots. So you need to find kind of a safe spot to reload while you make sure you don't get taken out, because I'm sure within 9 seconds you can get quite a bit of damage inflicted upon yourself. So mediums and the lights are kind of going at it with each other over here. Leopard does what he does best, does a drive-by on that Cheeto. Now I see this Cromwell coming up. Do about 300 damage, managed to knock out his loader. And... And that's the nice thing about that 9-second reload. I got it, boom, and then boom one more time. And I see a Leopard all the way over there, and I'm hoping maybe I could hit him. It would be nice. And this gun definitely has better aim time and dispersion than the 152. But I also see there's an ARL-44 over there and a VK-3601 Henschel, so I need to choose my battles wisely. At a distance, I managed to block all 250 damage that Leopard would have put into me, which, in my opinion, that's kind of that's a hard shot to make, but it is what it is. Now, I see that VK. I put one into him. Now, this is where that Russian accuracy comes back into play. I get ready to go here. That VK sees. I hit one more time. Now he's only one more shot. Now he's definitely only one more shot. There's no way I should be able to miss or do anything. I decide maybe I'll try and take on the ARL. I pay for it. I get hit by that VK. He puts into another one. Russian accuracy just right over. he misses me, and I stay in this little pocket here, and now I take him out. So, not a bad match for the 107. The tank probably would have done more damage or done a lot less shot. It would have taken out more tanks quicker with the 152, and it also would have had the fear factor of the 152. The 107 does not have any real fear factor other than you can shoot quicker. But once everyone knows that you're only dishing out so much less damage versus the 152, they're not really scared of a KV-2. The big thing about the KV-2 is the 152, but still, in certain situations, I'm sure the 107 definitely has its positives. You can see all those bounces that I took off of the Leopard from very far away. And I also took a bounce off up on the front here and from the bottom of the front plate there. So, not bad, but then you can see where I managed to take a hit in the side of that turret. But still, I mean, it's not a bad tank, and there are two different options for you to use if you want to play with the 107 or if you want to play the traditional style, in my opinion, with the 152. So, overall, the KV-2, well, it's okay. I'm actually not going to keep this tank once I'm done with doing all my research. I'd rather move on to the KV-3 and keep doing that tech tree line versus coming back to the KV-2. Like I said, it is nice and gratifying to connect a shot with the 152 and delete a tank from the match like Thanos snapping his fingers, but I just can't get over the sort of sluggish mobility and overall just poor everything about the tank other than its gun. It gives up a lot for that 152, and in the Blitz version at least, since the game seems to be a little bit quicker paced, I don't feel like this tank does a whole lot compared to other tanks of its tier. Like, yeah, it still has the fear factor. Yeah, it still has, you know, the big old gun and the ability to put out that massive HE damage, but it takes forever to get there, and just really, it's not my cup of tea, at least in Blitz. I'll definitely keep it in the PC version, even though it's apparently inferior, statistically wise, to the Blitz version, but it's going to be a pass on keeping it in my Blitz hangar. Anyways, that's going to be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you in the very next video. Take it easy, guys.